Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new series, What If One Shots? Now, what does that mean exactly? Let me explain. I'll be doing regular what ifs as a day, like every day as a regular, but for smaller passion projects or user submitted ideas, a what if one shot will be created. It is going to be the same quality, just a little bit shorter and a little bit more concise. These will be uploaded just randomly on the channel, and there will be a playlist below with all of them if you're interested. With that being said, let's get into what if Deku had an energy quirk. Before we start, let me explain Deku's quirk for everyone. Deku has the ability to turn physical energy, like chakra or like Nen, into small fields of energy. These fields can repel objects depending on how much energy is poured into them. Let's say Deku wants a shield to repel All Might. He would need to pour a ton of energy in to form it, but it would also have a large repelling force too. He also wouldn't be able to maintain it for long. Anyway, Deku was born to into Inko and Hisashi like in canon. Deku was always more of an upbeat kid, having more of a Mirio type of personality to him. At the age of 4, his quirk had awakened, while Deku and Bakugo were playing one day. Deku and Bakugo would have been playing Heroes, Bakugo using his newly awakened explosion quirk would lunge at Deku. Deku would try to dodge but couldn't, making a small force field in front of him, catching Bakugo and forcing him backwards. Both of their noses began to bleed, and Deku faints, having used too much energy already. Bakugo was about to yell at Deku, but he noticed as he passed out, calling for a teacher instead. Bakugo explains the situation, and Deku gets up, getting sent to the Quirk Doctor. The Quirk Doctor explains his quirk to the two of them, Inko nodding a little, and Deku already trying to make another force field. He would send the two of them home, and Deku would begin to train, not wasting a second. Due to this, Deku and Bakugo's relationship is more of a close rival type of vibe. Deku keeping Bakugo on a leash and calming him down a little, and Deku being pulled up by Bakugo, making him more confident. They would also spar and train together until the age of 14. They walk into class. It was the final day before they could finally start their own journey in the world. The teacher walks in, all grump, talking about how they need to take a future survey for their careers and for the future. Deku and Bakugo roll their eyes, as does the rest of the class, before the teacher throws the notes in the air saying, I know you all want to be heroes. He would then read through the list of names, two standing out to him. Oh, two of our own want to go to the hero course. UA High School. The class turns to look at the two of them, sitting high and mighty. They both nod. Damn straight, teach. The class wishes them luck, knowing the two of them will get in. I mean, their quirks were amazing. The bell would ring and they would split, Deku walking a different way to go to a convenience store on the way home. He'd pass under a tunnel. A metallic thud is heard behind him, echoing throughout the tunnel. Deku turns to see a tendril shooting towards him at top speed. Deku had summoned forth a shield, concentrating its radius just to be where the sludge is hitting, as to not overuse it. The tendril is shot back with equal force. Deku puts force pulses on his feet, using the repelling forces made from his quirk to blitz backward at top speed, creating some distance. The sludge villain is confused, rushing Deku again before Deku notices a tall man jumping out of the same sewer. He clocks his fist, Deku already knowing who it was. All Might would yell, Detroit! Smash! A huge gust of wind would rush towards Deku on the sludge. Deku would make a triangular force field in front of him, splitting the wind down the middle to lessen the force. He stood behind the green field as the sludgy mass splattered against the pathway. Oh kid, didn't see you there. I'm impressed. You haven't even got a little bit of dust on you. Do you have a force field quirk by any chance? You truly are strong. I surely hope I have the pleasure of seeing your progress very soon, young man. Deku would get his autograph and All Might would jump off, Deku waving him goodbye before taking a photo to show to Bakugo. Due to Deku not jumping on All Might, he never drops the villain, so Bakugo is never caught up. And although All Might likes Deku, his personality and his quirk, if anything, he's on his radar. He still, in the end of the day, will go with Mirio, but I want Deku to succeed with his own quirk. Deku and Bakugo would walk on a Dagobah beach. They chose there because it's a dump and no one goes there. Perfect for illegal quirk use. They'd been training there since they were kids. Cracking their knuckles, they both grin. Deku would speak. I just got 10 months to out-train you. Bakugo would laugh. You can try, Deku. Deku and Bakugo are both physically strong already. Like, about the level Deku's at and about the USJ arc, they would use their quirks. They would work on their quirks mostly, using them to destroy trash, creating ultimate moves, kinda. They bounce ideas off each other and come up with some quirk usage ideas. They could be able to make force fields in front of him, reflecting damage. He can also make energy fields on his feet and hands to enhance his punches and kicks. He works on a full Cowling-like power where he flows his energy throughout himself to reinforce himself, but his concentration isn't good enough yet. They continue on with this, training the entire 10 months before the UA entrance exam would occur. Deku and Bakugo walk through the gates, not falling, no shakes, ready. They go through the theory exam. Ida doesn't call Deku out as Deku's not much of a mumbler in this one. They ace it and they go their separate arenas, fist bumping and splitting. Deku walks to his exam site. He looks around, seeing everyone in their chosen outfits, all nervous. He grinds and looks forward. The gates slowly open and Deku uses a force field on his feet to blast off, rushing straight into it, destroying some robots. He would make energy fields on both his hands. Like that one guy from Mob Psycho. He would start boxing the robots. They take mad damage because of Quirk's repelling properties. Any punch he throws has more force behind it. He racks up a solid 25 points just from robots alone. Hit and run tactics. Aizawa takes an eye to him, noticing how he's utilizing his quirk for a variety of movements. He cracks a small smile. Deku would begin to hear shaking coming from down the road in the fake city. He turns and runs. Using his quirk, he blasts off once again. Zooming past some rocks on the floor, he looks back, just barely seeing a girl trapped on the floor under some rubble. He throws his leg back, stumbling a bit before rushing back to the girl. He tries to lift the rubble off her, seeing the robot close approaching. He thinks before concentrating hard. The robot about to crush him, Deku pushes his quirk into overdrive. He creates a force field above the two of them. It covers the entire surface of the robot's foot. Deku holds his hands up like he's holding onto a mountain. His quirk effects take effect, and the robot's foot is thrown back up into the air again. The robot stumbles back and almost falls. Deku would immediately pass out. He had never made a field that big, let alone creating counterforce that big. The teachers are astounded. They just saw a kid level up in real time. Aizawa is double impressed now. He asked Nezu for Deku personally. Deku was rushed to Recovery Girl, sitting in his bed for the rest of the day before waking up. Recovery Girl sits beside him, as does Bakugo and Inko. They explain to Deku that he overuses Quirk, apparently, and that it causes his brain to take heavy stress. Deku rubs his head. They get sent home and Deku would rest. He'd remember what happened in the first exam, playing it over and over again in his head. Now he knew he had the potential. Push come to shove, he can be powerful if he tries. He just needed to train. Bigger. Think bigger. He waits for 2 weeks, training until Inko rushes into his room one day holding a letter. He opens it and is welcomed to his hero academia. Deku and Bakugo find their way into the same hero course together. They're hype, walking into school and coming into class together. They set up and wait for the teacher to come in. Uraka comes up to Deku, telling him she's sorry and thanks him for the save, saying she couldn't thank him sooner because he passed out. Deku was about to respond, but before Aizawa stands up, they all quiet down and Aizawa tells him to meet him outside, as they were doing a quirk apprehension test. Deku was bummed but excited at the same time. They walk outside and after getting dressed, and in this timeline Deku is throwing the ball, Aizawa wanting to test him under pressure. Deku looks at him confused and Aizawa explains the test. Deku would think for a second before creating a small force field below him. Aizawa looks, as does Bakugo. Deku would summon another force field below that, an idea just occurring to him then. It works and they look on confused. Deku would throw the ball and the two force fields below him. The ball hits the shields and the force would be doubled. Deku would start feeling woozy by this. He hasn't used two force fields at once yet, something he needed to train. Aizawa was impressed still though, Deku being full of tricks. They come to Deku and Deku would make a solid 4th place. Not bad honestly. No one failed in this timeline either, Aizawa being a little nicer. Now, first change here. So in the original, Deku would be fighting Bakugo due to their beef, but in this timeline, I'm not going to do that, as It doesn't make sense for the story, so I'm going to make a random wheel instead. Deku and Uraraka versus Mina and weirdly enough, Ida. Now I'm gonna say that Ida, like in canon, would sit near the bomb the whole time, and Mina would take Bakugo's place, rushing down to meet them head on. Deku and Uraraka would explain their quirks to each other, walking to the front of the building. They walk in split directions, Deku using his quirk on his feet to rush forward, rushing up the stairs before he's met by Mina, who rushes right at him. Deku would have noticed her quirk at the apprehension test, but he didn't know it was acid. Deku would be cautious, rushing in. He would look in for any signs of liquid to come at him. Pause. He'll get closer, running to the right a little more. Mina would stand still, bringing her hand up before spraying Deku. Pause. Deku would make a force field and it would block the attack, drooping the liquid to the floor. Deku would then capitalize, rushing in and putting a capture tape on Mina before rushing off again. Due to his training with Bakugo, he was much more fluid with his movements. He could maneuver a lot better mid-air, and eventually they would find the bomb and Deku and Uraraka would face Ida down, both rushing him, taking the bomb out, and yeah, winning. Yeah. Now, here's where the second big change happens. Deku and the class load onto the bus, being headed onto the USJ. Deku and the class would have got the same convo as in canon, Deku being ranked 4th behind Todoroki, Bakugo, and Tokoyami. He understands this and he can see where they're coming from. They make it there and they'll begin talking. Aizawa would notice a small villain, much like in canon, and Deku would stay up there. Kurogiri would warp to the top and Bakugo wouldn't rush forward this time, Deku holding him back. The two would begin to suck paws, and Kurogiri would sit still and put one portal behind her. Deku opens his eyes, falling as he would make a force field below him, which to his surprise would stay there, a kind of magical carpet. He didn't know he could do this either. He stands there surveying the area before seeing Froppy and Mineta on the boat waving him over. He'd bounce off the platform, using its repulsive forces to fly him onto the boat. They'd make a plan. Deku would concentrate hard and would make another platform-like structure in the middle again. Froppy grabs them and all swings them over to the land using the platform as a branch. They land and see Shigaraki scratching on his neck. Aizawa getting overwhelmed by the villains. Deku would look to his left and see a large figure standing behind him. He looks in horror as Shigaraki mumbles something to himself. The creature lowers down a little before rushing Aizawa. Deku barely sees it moving, and in a flash of dark, rushing against the floor. He sees it going towards Aizawa, panicking. He has to do what he has to do. He closes his eyes hard and concentrates, putting two force fields between the Nomu and Aizawa, just in time. The Nomu would connect with the fields, breaking the first one completely before smashing into the second one, cracking it before being sent flying backwards. Deku feels his mind, his head having a splitting headache, like after the entrance exam. He drops to his knees and Aizawa looks at him. He looks back at the Nomu who had just gotten back up once again. Shigaraki scratches himself. No, kill the kid first. Nomu's neck snaps to Deku, rushing without thought towards Deku. He closes his eyes once again, feeling a fist connect with his gut. He would on instinct put a field there. The Nomu would break through this and connect anyway. Aizawa having erased his quirk and the force feeling being there to save Deku from death. He'd be sent flying across the water, skipping like a stone before hitting the boat. He falls forward, just making a platform below him in time. He was hurt. Really hurt. Aizawa saw him bounce again against the water. What? I cancelled his quirk. Aizawa would think before yelling Midoriya's name. Deku would slowly get up, the platform cracking underneath him as he stood. He'd jump off once again, Froppy grabbing him and pulling him to the shore, as Nomu would rush the same again. This time, Aizawa. Deku couldn't see it this time. Aizawa would get slammed by the Nomu, which would put Aizawa straight out of commission. Deku looks on, seeing Aizawa in the state he's in. He tries to make his shield in front of him, but it's broken instantly. Deku looks on, no hope, before the doors above swing open. A frowning All Might stands tall, looking down at the now injured pro hero. He pounces down, rushing at the Nomu. They begin their fight. Bakugo would grab Deku and start running him up the stairs. Roppy and Mineta taking Aizawa. Todoroki stays down to help fight the Nomu just before Shigaraki and Korogiri would escape. So really not a lot changes. Deku gets bitched though, leading him to being put in the hospital once again, only being released 2 days later after finding out about the week break they were given. Now, due to Deku overusing his quirk so much, he has actually pushed his quirk a lot more, leading to him getting stronger. He finds this out after the week break, figuring out how he can make 2 shields now, more than once, even though it still drains him quite a lot. He's excited by this new revelation, rushing to school and being met by an injured Aizawa. Half his face was crushed in, only just got out of the hospital yesterday. He explains the UA Sports Festival to the class going nuts. They get another week off and Deku would continue to push himself, being able to concentrate 2 shields anywhere around him. He also thinks something up, thinking he can debut it at his first fest. He walks through the gates, determined as ever. He meets with Bakugo and they start talking in the locker room. Todoroki doesn't call Deku out, actually calling Bakugo out as he's top dog in the class now. They fight a little before being called out to the main stage. The obstacle course and the cavalry battles go similar as in canon. Deku using his quirk would bat off the bat would help him secure third in the obstacle race and pull off a sneaky entrance into the 1v1 portion. Here's where it gets fun. Deku and Shinso. Deku would hear the bell go off and immediately put a force field around Shinso. Shinso would look confused at him before Deku flicks him out of bounds. Shinso not even getting to speak. The next round would begin. Deku versus Todoroki. This time, Deku got to show off his new moves. The crowd went wild, the 2 combatants stepping up to the stage. The gun is shot, and Deku sees a flurry of ice coming towards his way. Focusing his energy and closing his eyes, he would stand still. He clocks his arm back before it connects with the ice. Deku throws a huge right to it. On his arm were 2 energy fields. Seeing how much more powerful he could get for using one more, he trained stacking them on his arm. He would blow a huge hole in the ice and a shockwave heading straight towards Todoroki. Everyone's astounded. What the hell? Where'd this come from? Even Todoroki looks pissed. He rushes at Deku. They come in close, Todoroki throwing punches and kicks, which Deku blocks using his force fields. You would see an opening on Todoroki, his battle IQ being higher due to training so much. He had once again stacked 2 on each other before ducking Todoroki's punch, sending a missile punch to Todoroki's gut. It connects, Deku pouring less energy in though as to not hurt Todoroki. The punch would stop dead in its tracks, Todoroki falling to his knees. The crowd would go silent before bursting into praise. Deku would walk off the stage and the rest until his next fight. Bakugo and Deku both walk into the stage together. Once again, they had been training for this. They immediately get into a fighting stance as the bell is rung. They rush into the middle of the stage. They decide to start small, throwing straight hands with each other. They would block fists and throw fists until Bakugo would connect with Deku's face. Deku instinctively blocked with a shield. Bakugo would smirk and they would continue on. The fight would grow increasingly more violent with the quirk usage until they would look at each other quite beat up. They lunge into the middle once again, Deku stacking 2 onto his arm and Bakugo releasing his howitzer impact. They'll fly together before connecting and flying out of bounds. They both slam into the walls and everyone goes silent. The dust settles and no one gets up. Bakugo twitches and forces his way up. Bakugo wins by decision. Deku in this timeline would get an internship with pro hero Crust, the shield guy. They would practice controlling the battlefield with precision. Deku wouldn't be there to save Ida, who sadly dies in this timeline. The final exams roll around and Deku passes the theory exam. He does make his way to the prac site, this timeline being paired with Todoroki against All Might. Though they don't hate each other, they haven't exactly talked and are kinda weird about each other. Deku wouldn't pry too much, but wouldn't talk to Todoroki. Talk to Todoroki, getting him to open up a little. They would plot and All Might would rush them. They'd begin to fight. They'd begin to fight back, doing hit and run tactics with Ice and Deku's quirk to freeze and push All Might away. To make distance towards the gate, they eventually press They eventually pass, Deku making a double layer force field to block All Might from following them in. He'd faint from this, being saved by Todoroki. They'd become friends after this encounter. I'm gonna skip the training camp. I'm gonna go straight to Kamino Ward. Deku was especially pissed in this timeline, seeing Todoroki in this timeline getting captured and not Bakugo. He would rush to Momo, stealing the device as him and Bakugo rush to help him. They arrive and they see him. Bakugo would sweep in and grab him, flying into the air. Deku watches from a distance, looking for any incoming attacks to counter. He'd hear a large noise to the right, looking up to see All For One charging an attack at a weakened All Might. Deku would immediately jump into action, rushing in and sticking both hands out. Pushing his quirk to the maximum, he would stack 5 shields on top of each other. The attack would fly in, and the first shield would break, as does the second, third, and fourth. The fifth is left standing. Deku pouring all of his energy into the attack would have the attack bounced back at All For One. All For One would be injured by this, not expecting it. All Might would capitalize, and All For One would be ended right there and then. So Deku would become famous because he had a large hand in the capture of All For One, and he lets Mirio have the rest with Shigaraki. And yeah, that's it.